And sugar, dramatic. Okay, so excessive stimulants and alcohol. Alcohol depresses the immune system. Stimulants can also, again, burn up your, like coffee, things like that. They can burn up your mitochondria because you're trying to generate more energy than you actually have. So that's something that can be a problem. Stressful activities, again, too much stress. A little stress is good. We need a little stress or we'll just sit at home and do nothing all day. And then sugar dramatically lowers immune activity. And this is really dramatic. So sugar is definitely one of the things that during flu season you want to be on a minimal level with.
Yeah, actually there's studies that show that like the amount of sugar in like 2 soft drinks suppresses the white cell response by 50%.
Yeah, so for those who didn't hear that, the amount of sugar in 2 soft drinks suppresses the immune system by up to 50%.
Yikes.
Yeah. Okay, so here are some of the yummy things that we do with that. Stress, adequate sleep, meditation, relaxation, exercise are all crucial in reducing your body's perception of stress. When you are sick, do not exercise. That is my high recommendation for all of you. Not only does it use up energy levels energy that you need to fight the infection, it takes your blood and everything into your muscles where it wants to go somewhere else to fight the infection. But also you can end up circulating the virus or whatever it is into places that it wouldn't get otherwise. So very careful with that. Although sweating is good, just not sweating by making yourself tired through exercise. Specific herbs, adaptogens, can increase the body's ability to handle stress, and primarily adaptogens you want to use before you get sick to try to prevent getting sick. After you get sick, sometimes you take adaptogens, and we'll talk about some of those like ginseng and so forth. If you're taking them after you get sick, sometimes they can fuel the bad guys as well as the good guys, so to speak. Okay, so what nutrients are essential for immunity? Vitamin A and beta-carotene. Of course, every nutrient is essential for immunity, but these are some of the bigger ones that have been studied in terms of improving your immune response. So read those: vitamin C, vitamin D, selenium, and zinc. So vitamin A and beta-carotene, they maintain integrity of the mucosal membranes, protecting against bacterial and viral invasions. We talked about that, your mucus production and so forth. And they influence T lymphocytes, and that's, again, your acquired immunity from your thymus. That's your the T and T lymphocytes, the thymus. Best food sources of vitamin A and beta-carotene: carrot juice, chicken livers, cod liver oil, dandelion leaf, and sweet potatoes.
There also seems to be some relationship between vitamin D and vitamin A and increasing the efficacy of the immune response and activating the lymphocytes, I think.
Okay. Yeah. So we'll talk also about, I think vitamin D was on there.
Later
so
on, yeah.
There's some interesting research in those in combination. Hopefully that'll be here. Vitamin C, an antioxidant that protects white blood cells. It increases the production and release of some of the immune complexes in white blood cells and becomes depleted during stressful situations. So that's most of our lifestyle, stressful, and and toxins, right? So that's one of the reasons why vitamin C seems to be the vitamin of the century, because it pretty much fits the way our lifestyle has been going. Some of the best food sources, and we actually always prefer foods to supplements when possible. Because again, foods, you get all sorts of other chemicals in there that can be beneficial, and also absorption tends to be better when you use foods in many cases. There are some exceptions to that, like with vegans and B12, but we won't go there with all this.
Allergy prone.
Or allergy prone.
Or allergies,
it's important to start with foods.
Yeah.
And then go from there.
Yeah, and juicing is a way to concentrate your nutrients from foods. So juicing is something that our patients hear a lot about from us. So that's also important. So a lot of these can be juiced. I don't recommend you juicing cruciferous vegetables raw, because they contain some things that can inhibit potentially your thyroid function, so, which is very important for your immune system. And also, we mentioned before how important vitamin A and beta-carotene are, but you can't really convert beta-carotene into vitamin A unless your thyroid is working well. So, vitamin D, close relationship. Now, any of you who've been following the literature have seen that vitamin D is like the biggest thing since sliced bread right now. They're researching it for absolutely everything. And there's a close relationship between flu epidemics and vitamin D levels. Again, this is what Steve was talking about.
So when we talk about flu season, we always think about flu season as the time of year like when we get into fall and winter and then the light changes, right? So we're getting less vitamin D production. They're seeing epidemiological studies are showing that there's a very close correlation between these seasons and flu. And they think that the factor is really the decreased vitamin D levels.
So that's also very interesting. In Chinese medicine, some of the herbs that they use to help protect during the seasonal changes actually increase the activation of vitamin D. So it's kind of an interesting correlation. So there's also an increased incidence of the flu. Oh, okay, this is what Steve just talked about. Since he made the slide, I think it's appropriate. Important for a strong immune system and prevent secondary lung infections.
Yeah, some of the epithelial cells that line the bronchus and the tracheae are really dependent on vitamin D for their function. So it really helps with keeping the invaders out.
Okay. So that's your first line of defense when you breathe something in, just like we talked about. You eat something, your first line of defense is the inner tubes, whatever's sitting there ready to fight and not let the bad guys into your body. When you breathe something in, there's a similar thing in your lungs. So that's what he's talking about, that the vitamin D helps the immune system in the lungs and the function of the lungs to prevent the invaders from getting directly into the bloodstream. Just keep in mind, when you smoke things, when you inhale things, it goes right into your bloodstream really fast. So that's why, if anybody, in the medical marijuana, they like, inhaling it because it gets into your bloodstream faster. If you eat it, it takes a longer time for that effect.
One other point about the whole idea of secondary infections is that the secondary infections usually include the things that are, actually, create poor prognosis in people.
Right, and that's So that's what we were talking about earlier when we said that most of the people who are dying from these flus are not dying from the flu itself.
It's from secondary infections.
It's from a secondary pneumonia or something like that. So in some ways, you could make the argument that, well, why isn't the CDC pushing, the pneumococcal or the pneumococcal vaccine if it's actually pneumonia that's killing most of the, or a lot of the people, as opposed to the directly. And you find that with, by the way, a lot of these problems that people end up dying eventually just from pneumonia or something like that, as opposed to what they have. So selenium is another one. It's a trace mineral. It assists in antioxidant, thyroid and liver function. Crucial for certain enzymes that increase the activity of and production of natural killer cells as well as T cells. So the best food sources of selenium: Brazil nuts, halibut, Swiss chard, and oats. Halibut is, would be kind of like a vaccine. You can get your selenium and your mercury all in one place. Zinc, when the immune system is stressed, it relies heavily upon zinc. Increases production of white blood cells and immune complexes, and it regulates vitamin A release, so it may also enhance the effect of vitamin A on bugs, on organisms. Best dietary sources of zinc. So we see Swiss chard, dark meat in turkey, lima beans, pumpkin seeds, and beef. Quercetin. This protects fats in the cell membrane. It makes vitamin C more efficient. It's anti-inflammatory, antihistamine, antiviral, and increases the efficacy of Tamiflu in a study, actually. So this is also important to mention that for example, in Chinese pharmacopoeia, we also have herbs that will knock out a fever, for example. But the herbs that knock out a fever, it's not like if you take a Tylenol to knock out your fever, you are just knocking out your fever. But if you're taking an herb that's knocking out your fever, it's also killing something.
So this is a perfect example of a way we can ameliorate some of the symptoms, but still strengthen the immune system.
Exactly. So this is where you can balance your symptoms versus so quercetin is actually a type of isolate from like citrus usually, right?
Usually, yeah.
It's a flavonoid. It's a flavonoid.
Yeah.
So at any rate, it's a natural substance that's just isolated and concentrated. And again, if you do get the virus and you end up taking Tamiflu or something, you want to take quercetin with it. It's going to really enhance the function of that.
Actually, there's